All right, guys, welcome to the Let's Quit podcast. A little bit of a different show for you today. We always say in the intro, we share the lessons, friends, and tips and tricks or something with you. Today is the part where we share our friends with you. So our first podcast guest is, his name is RJ. He's got several businesses, entrepreneur. His wife is an entrepreneur. He's got just awesome guy, awesome family.
He's got a great background, and he's honestly helped us a lot when we started our business and, got on YouTube and everything like that. So
he's got a little lesson for you today on overthinking things and just hesitating. And I know we all hate this phrase, but analysis paralysis.
Yes.
I cringe every time I hear it.
But we all go through it, so let's be honest.
Right. So we just knew that you guys were going to get some value from RJ.
Absolutely.
So this is just a recording of our conversation together, and I'll let him tell his own story to you. So here we go. Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. Cool. So this is RJ. Everybody say hi, RJ. Everybody's in their car, just waving.
Hi, RJ.
Hello, everybody in their car.
So RJ is one of our good friends. We've known him for a couple of years now, just on the internet, one of those internet friends. But I don't know. RJ's been one of those people that has more experience than us being self-employed and being entrepreneurial and that sort of thing. So we've really kind of looked up to RJ over the last couple of years, really taken his advice seriously when he says something. So we just wanted to share his experience with you guys on the podcast. And
he's been very helpful to us, so we want to share him with you.
Right. So RJ, if you don't mind, just start with wherever you want to start your story and get everybody up to speed with who you are, what you do, and that sort of thing.
Sure. Wow, you guys really set the stage for me. So hopefully I don't disappoint everybody who's in their car listening. But my name's RJ McCollam. I am self-employed. I run at this point a couple businesses, one of them being a furniture business. And the very condensed version of kind of me and my journey towards full-time self-employment is, going through high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I didn't go to college. I didn't want to sit stagnant. So I actually went to motorcycle college, like to be a motorcycle mechanic. I always enjoyed knowing how things work, building things. And so I did that. Turned out I didn't want to be a grease monkey my whole life. So I dropped out of that. I quit school. Because I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. And that led to, odd jobs here and there. Fast forward a few years, I've met my wife, I'm getting married. I was recently evicted from my apartment. I got my car repossessed. I had worked for GoDaddy, the internet company, and made a lot of money there, but I was immature. Money came in and money immediately went out. So here I am around 2008. I'm recently married. Life lessons are upon me at the moment, and I'm like, okay, it's time to, I guess, man up, for lack of a better term, and figure this stuff out. So I said, okay, let me start teaching myself about websites. I was always interested in that, and so that was kind of the very beginning of like, I'm gonna try to do this thing on my own, and obviously I wasn't making lots of money at the beginning of that. So I had to get a job. That went on for another, I'd say, doing some quick math in my head, about 7 years. So 2013, I had been continually doing web stuff on the side, working a day job, coming home, eating dinner with my family. At this point, we've had a daughter, and then I go and I work at night. And so I was that guy in the car driving to work on my commute, listening to podcasts just like this and being like, God, that sounds great. Or hearing these people, give this fantastic advice, but just feeling like, in this beat up Kia Spectra, like that just doesn't work for me. I can't apply that, right? It's easy to say how to do these things when you've reached that level of success and get that high level, just like the description for your guys' podcast, how many times we've been told these 5 things, do these 5 things and you'll be successful. So I always, like, in the back of my head, kind of doubted, can I really do this? Fast forward again, 2013, I quit my full-time job and I make the jump into full-time freelancing. To give a little context into that, because that's such a like pivotal and triumphant moment, like this is what I've been working towards. But to give some context to that, which made it not so like exciting, was the previous year in my freelancing business, I only made $15,000. Not enough to support a family, let alone a single individual person. And we only had 3 months of our bills saved up, right? Wow. So not even what people recommend, 6 months to a year. So it was a leap, it was a jump. And, fast forward again to try to make a somewhat long story short is I just hit 7 years of being self-employed. And so, I made it through. I'm on the other side, so to speak, and I can't imagine ever going back. But that's kind of my journey from, being the person in the car, like, gosh, I'm not sure if I can make this work, to, what does it look like when you actually are consistent at something and, keep trying and keep pushing for it, and then eventually slowly grow into that quote unquote success.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know a lot of that stuff. So I'm just trying to process it, but can we back up to the pivotal moment of quitting your job? I feel like that's, you said it, that's like the hallmark moment for every entrepreneur, everybody that feels stuck.
Scariest part, I guess, for everybody.
Yeah, did that move, like, were you self-aware of the fear at that time, or did it just seem like the next best move for you to make?
I was 100% aware of the fear. I literally went into that decision. The place I was working at was not a good place. It was doing a number on me, and it wasn't good. So I knew I needed to get out. But the thought process was, I'll try it, and I'll probably just have to get another job. So like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll have to get another job. I'm lucky in that, like, my wife really supported me and pushed me to, like, now's the time. My now business partner also was, with me there, saying, hey, you should do this sort of thing. So I had support. But yeah, it's scary. And I was well aware, like, I honestly, I wasn't sure it was going to work, is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, listening to the same podcast, like in the car, and getting really excited about the dream one day of maybe being self-employed or having my own business, like it never dawned on me that you could just get another job. Like, it's nothing you do is super permanent. And so, and now that we've gotten out of the Air Force and we've started these businesses, like, I'm not scared to go work at, like, the gas station. There's a really nice chain of gas stations in Texas that we wear the shirts all the time. It's called Buc-ee's.
I could go work at Buc-ee's.
Like, it's not just, a nasty gas station. No offense to anybody working at a nasty gas station, but like, it's not, I'm not terrified of this all or nothing switch from complete employment to entrepreneurship, because I can always go get another job. I think that's something that's lost in the entrepreneurship culture, is like, you never want to, like, fall back on that option, but that option is there. It's not like nobody's ever going to hire you because you had a 6-month gap in your resume of, oh, well, I tried this entrepreneurship thing, didn't work out.
Yeah, it's not as much of a black or white switch as people may think sometimes. You can play around in the gray area a little bit. But yeah, we've said that multiple times. Like, hey, if this doesn't work out, we've got options. And I feel like that's what keeps us motivated to keep going, is knowing that it's not, 100% sacrifice. It's not like we're burning, all the bridges behind us as we go on our journey. So that's kind of comforting. But I have a follow-up question for you. So you said in that, like, 7-year period, you were working a job before you made the decision to fully switch. What kept you, like, motivated? Like, what, because 7 years, like, that's a long time. So, like, what kept you pushing to that point? Because I feel like that's where a lot of people get stuck. They get in the period where they're working toward it, or they're waiting. And that's maybe where people are like, I don't think I really want this that badly. Maybe I'll just stay at the job I have now.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I always knew, well, not always, that's dramatic. For a while, I had known that, like, I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to stand on my 2 feet. and see if I could give it a legitimate go. Like that was I guess a dream or passion of mine. Again, my wife shares the same sentiment. So it was really great to have that in the household, because especially if you have a spouse, a lot of people who didn't have that experience in their life or don't have that desire, it's hard to contemplate like, well, why would you not have a job? And that can actually create a lot of tension in a relationship. So I was lucky to have that, but it was something that I knew I wanted to do things my way, for more than one reason, but it was just a matter of, okay, like I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to, I wanted to give myself enough opportunity to see this through.
Yeah.
So what was it that like helped you, even though you were scared, even though it was a big decision and there was a lot of chaos surrounding it? What was it that gave you the confidence to go ahead and make the decision anyway, or just to try it? Was there something that like finally pushed you over the edge?
No, honestly, like, so I don't have some, nugget of wisdom here to say like something clicked. It was just like, it was kind of hey, it's been 7 years. Like, when is there ever going to be another chance to kind of do this? And so it was just a matter of doing it. Like, finally made the decision to say, hey, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's really good to hear, because I think certain people are waiting for some big sign or some like
sign in the sky or something
get
that.
Struck with wisdom that like now's the perfect time. It's like, if you don't have that, that's okay. Like, you can still make a large change in your life. 9 out of 10 times you're not going to see some big magical sign saying, hey, it's time to go now. So
yeah. And even if you are seeing signs, we're so conditioned to, whether it's a fear response or, right, self confidence or self-worth or whatever, like we may see those signs, but, just find a way to kind of push it back in our head, saying, oh no, that's not the time. It's not the time just yet. I just need to have this or whatever. So yeah, it was just kind of, I guess, a moment of clarity of like, I say I want to do this. I have an opportunity to do it. I should do it. And that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Well,
can you talk a little bit more about like your support network? So you said your business partner as well as your wife, because your wife's entrepreneurially spirited as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. She's, even while I, had this job, or jobs, I should say, as I was doing this on the side, she always did little things on her own. She's her big thing at this point is selling books online through Amazon. She does some other things as well. And so, yeah, she's always had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And that was the biggest thing, I guess, because not to make this a podcast about my wife, but, like I said, when I got married, I was not like, I made excuses, and it was just like, didn't want to take responsibility for anything. And that led to making stupid decisions. And then, she really gave me reason to, I guess, be better. And so that was a big thing, is just having her, obviously having my business partner, my now business partner, along somebody who, he was doing this already. He was working for himself full time. And so us working together for those, years, 6-7 years, and kind of continually getting that push from him as well. A lot of people don't understand when you make the change, because again, it's kind of worker bee mentality versus business owner mentality. So having multiple people who were close to me, constantly pushing for that and supporting that, I never felt like I was on an island, doing this by myself or making a decision that that my wife didn't agree with or something along those lines. So those two people in particular were really kind of instrumental in, I guess, giving me a level of comfort moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear. I mean, we hear all sorts of stories of people reaching out to us saying that, their wife isn't involved, or they don't know who they can trust. They do feel like they're on an island. And Jennie and I sort of have this like theory that everybody does have somebody like that around them. You might just not know that they're there, or you might not be looking for them in the right places. So
because they never really served you in that avenue before. Maybe they were just like an acquaintance and you had no idea that they could be so much more helpful.
Right. Or maybe it gets like really nasty and you don't feel like you deserve to have somebody like that around you. And so you're already not looking for it from the beginning with your default assumption. So do you have any advice for anybody of like how to pull your head out of that and to recognize the people around you, or at least to look at somebody in a different light?
I'm fairly introverted in that, like, I can live, I work from home. I stick to a routine. I'm fine every morning waking up and sitting in front of my computer and like not necessarily leaving the house for a few days. Like, I'm totally cool with that. So, I don't necessarily have like advice for that, but I would say this. We all follow people online that we look up to, whether we're aspiring to be like them or be in the similar business as them, you should make an attempt, as uncomfortable as it can be, you should make an attempt to reach out to somebody, because so many people respond positively to that. If essentially looking to them as a mentor, and, not that they're taking on this full-time mentor role, but a lot of people will respond positively and help you with advice. That's one of the things, a podcast that isn't dead, but I no longer do actively. That's probably the biggest thing that I got out of doing the podcast to help other freelancers was the emails of just people, saying thank you, but also just needing that little push or needing that person who understood. And, being able to kind of be that person for a few people was really rewarding for me, but that came up. And so I would recommend you find somebody you look up to and you reach out to them, because the worst that could happen is they don't respond. So you got nothing to lose, because so many people are willing to help. And if you can just crack that surface level interaction of a YouTube comment or an Instagram comment or something like that, and, send a message, look them up, find their email address, send them an email. You can really gain a lot from that in terms of gaining somebody in your corner.
No, I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think understanding that, like, sending the email, you're not going to offend them. If anything, they're going to feel complimented. Like, hey, somebody trusts me enough and thinks that I am, valuable enough that they're seeking my advice. So yeah, the worst they can say is no. And you're definitely not going to offend them by saying, hey, I think you're so intelligent that I want to take advice from you. So yeah, I don't know. I think that makes it way less scary for people who are, maybe afraid of reaching out or hitting send, kind of a deal.
Right. And that's part of our story is like in high school, I like got to know this guy on YouTube. He had a couple million subscribers on YouTube. And this is back in 2009, 2010, when YouTube was first like on its like big growth swing. And that made all the difference for me. And the last couple of people that I've reached out to have responded. One quick thing on that, like to being someone who's sent a lot of those emails, like try to make it as short as possible.
Yes.
You want to like explain your life story and like give everybody context and like so that they can help you the easiest, but like make it as simple as possible. Ask a simple yes or no question, or something that doesn't require a very long response. I guess what I'm trying to add on to that great advice is just like, don't expect the other person to wrap their brain around your entire situation. Just come to them and ask a fairly simple-ish question that's like at the core of what you're trying to answer. And you'd be surprised at how often somebody does reply to something like that.
Absolutely. That automatically shows respect of time. Like, hey, I know you're busy. You're an important person. I respect your time. Simplicity.
Yep.
Any other like lessons or something that you want to talk about, like you've like learned from your story? Like, is there anything that you can like boil down to one portable thing, preferably in the way of a negative of like quitting something or something along those lines?
Not for any particular reason.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing, and this is kind of something that I learned, but I'm practicing on the daily is quit overthinking everything. And what I mean by that specifically is I'm going to use the term analysis paralysis, and I will attempt to use it only that time and not continuing. But we when we decide that we want to do something, whether it's I want to start this furniture business, or I want to do this, I want to quit my job, whatever it is, it's so easy to live in this state of motion versus action. I don't typically read a lot of business related books or like self-growth books, but I am in the middle of reading one called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's been around for a few years. It's a very popular book, and he does a fantastic job of distilling our, how we form habits and how psychologically that works. And this was the biggest thing that's resonated with me, is motion versus action. So if I'm saying, and I'm going to use this example because it was at this point about a year and a half ago that I decided, you know what, I want to create a second business and start a furniture business. And obviously, when you're starting a new business, especially one you've never done before, there's so much that you need to do. There's so much planning, and planning is good. I know you guys are fans. And planning it's something that's necessary, and it really puts you on the right path. But sometimes we can use that as a crutch to sit in the planning. Well, I have to figure this out before I can do this. And at the end of the day, for me, if I don't have a clear path forward on something, it's like I hit this roadblock and I just kind of sit there spinning my wheels until I feel comfortable that I can move forward. And the reality is I may have procrastinated doing this thing for a couple days because I didn't have clarity on it, and it took me 15 minutes to do. I can't tell you how many times I've had a particular task that I've needed to get done, and I put it off for a week, maybe even a month. And then I finally just said, I'm going to do this. And then it took 5 minutes. And then I feel so stupid because like, what were you waiting for? Like, come on.
I feel like that's 90% of our week.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that I'm not alone there, but, sitting down and trying to get every little detail correct. All you're doing is you're postponing the inevitable. You can plan and you can have things in place, but it's not until you actually go through something that you're going to actually make the progress that you're saying you want to. And I'm going to use, I think it's from episode 2 of the Let's Quit podcast, where you guys use the analogy of getting in shape, or like being a runner. And so Davis, you said, maybe the first step is simply going to buy a pair of running shoes. And that's a really good, okay, it's less daunting if I take it that way. But the flip side to that, or the other side of the coin, is that, okay, that's motion, right? And we feel good about that. Okay, I took a step, I did this. But if your plan is I want to be a runner, or I want to get healthy or lose weight or whatever, that's motion versus action. So the action of running is actually going to get you what you want. So it's finding that healthy balance. And I think a lot of us, myself included, we're overthinking things. So we live in this kind of perpetual state of motion, and we're not taking action to push ourselves down the road.
Wow.
That's really good.
That is something that I deal with on a micro level every day, and I deal with on a more macro level, over the years, just as I say, I want to do this or whatever. And I would just encourage everybody to take more action.
Yeah, I think it's scary to see sometimes how quickly that can add up to. You said you deal with it on a micro scale, but then you can also see it on a macro scale, is just how much staying in motion versus action actually adds up over time. Because I've had it before where I'll look back on a year and I'm like, wow, I actually took very little action on that. And it happened so quickly because throughout that year, I was like, oh no, I'll just put it off again.
But I worked on it every week.
Yeah, I worked on it every week. It's slightly getting better over time. And then you look back and you're like, whoa, that I made zero progress, and it hurts. It really hurts. So I feel like we all need to find our little motivations to keep us going on the micro level, because that fear of looking back on a year of staying stuck in motion is painful. It really hurts.
Yeah. So do you have any techniques or anything that you use to pull yourself out of that? How do you, again, so one of the tools that the Air Force used to use all the time was called the OODA loop, if you've heard of this.
I haven't.
The OODA loop.
So it's some fighter pilot came up with it. It's 4 letters, OODA. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. And so as you get new information, as you realize like what's happening around you, you observe what's going on, you orient yourself and say, how do I fit into this? You decide, you make a decision, and then you act on that decision.
And you're supposed to start the whole thing all over again, which is why it's called the loop.
Because you get a reaction to that. And anyway, so of course the Air Force loves their buzzwords and everything, but so I guess my first question is like, what's your observe? How do you observe that you're in that situation, and how do you orient yourself to then take action to pull yourself out of that overthinking loop?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a particular framework or follow something along those lines. For me, it's fairly, I'm very aware that I'm procrastinating. Whether it's, whether I've sat there for 30 minutes and I haven't made progress on something. The way that I try to, I guess, orient myself to overcome that is time constraints and saying, hey, next 15 minutes, I'm just going to do this. And whatever I get done, I get done. I don't have to get it all done, but I'm going to give myself 15 minutes. I'm going to work on that. And what happens is when you do something like that, you remove some expectation and you remove kind of the fog. So you're just sitting down and you're focused on doing that. And then now you're in a state of action and, wow, I can't believe it only took 10 minutes to get that done. And I gave myself 15, or I got, halfway through this in an hour when I thought it was going to take me 4 hours or something along those lines. So for me, it's, I'm pretty aware of when I'm doing it. And I guess that just comes over time. But it's a time constraint that helps me kind of break out of it in the moment.
I really like that. That's something that we talk about a lot, because I feel like we'll spend forever on doing something and then just justify why it took that long, and which is why we're so disciplined with like Google Calendar now. We will time everything out every part of the day, and we'll go back at the end of the day and update how long it took us, because sometimes you can lie to yourself and say, no, that'll actually take me 30 minutes. It's okay. It's like, no, it should not be taking you that long.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I asked is because Jen and I, like, that's our number one struggle is we don't recognize when we're in those type of situations. Right. And that's when it gets scary, because then your time starts to bleed away from you and you have no way to reel it back in. So that's why we're huge proponents of the calendar and like the getting things done method. I think that guy's name's Gary Keller, if you've read that book. Just you need to have an inbox for every part of your life. And as you have new ideas, as you need to address things, you put it in the inbox, then you schedule it, and then you just have a system for dealing with these things. You don't let yourself do things based off of your subjective opinion of where you are. You put some objectivity on it with a calendar or with an inbox. And that's one way that we've tried to like catch ourselves when we're in those situations and we don't realize it.
Yeah. And if you guys are, Jennie, you mentioned, you're writing down how much time it took you. I am a sucker for data, like making data-driven decisions as opposed to emotional decisions, especially in business. And that is an eye-opener. And I think that could potentially be why I can recognize when I'm in it, because I've been tracking my time for years. So I very succinctly understand how long something should take me, even if there's an unknown to it. So I have that kind of immediate feedback because I'm tracking time with everything I do. It's easy because I'm in front of the computer doing tasks on the computer. But because I've been doing that for years and years and years, every day I look at a time report and see where I'm at. I guess that's kind of given me this quick insight into, oh, wow, like the timer's at 2 hours and I've only gotten this done. Like I'm struggling right now.
I like that. So if you can't trust yourself, at least you can trust numbers, because they won't lie to you, right?
We always think, for the most part, things take longer than they're going to. When you actually sit down and you get it done, whether it's exercising or doing this task, in the garage or whatever, we always think it's going to take longer. But if, I quickly put on my shoes, hop on the bike for 20 minutes, like, okay, that 20 minutes went by a lot faster than what it felt like it was going to be before I started the task.
Right. Yeah. I mean, using the analogy of running or working out again, like I spend more time deciding whether or not I'm going to work out than the actual workout takes.
Yep.
And I'm kicking myself for it every single time.
Yeah. We do that a lot.
Yep, we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so far my takeaways are: 1, RJ has a way better OODA loop than The Air Force does. Subjectively to me. And 2, I need to read Atomic Habits. That's the next book on my
We've got it.
list of audiobooks. Yeah, but I bought the audiobook version. And so, man, I got to dive into that one. That's like the second time somebody's brought up something really good from it. So,
yeah.
It's great, no nonsense, which is key for me.
Cool. So, do you have any action steps, specific things that people can take to help them quit overthinking?
I would circle back to the concept of getting things done. I did read that book, Getting Things Done, and I've used a few systems that are, built around that concept. But there's a lot to be said when you're either overwhelmed or you're unsure of what the next step is or should be. There's a lot to be said for just kind of getting everything out of your head into your inbox, like you said, Davis, and then just slowly chunking away at that. Okay, I have all these items. Maybe it starts with like, let me put these in a logical order, and then it turns into, okay, let me go ahead and schedule this. And I talked about motion and action, and those two can work together at the same time too. You can have the motion of going through, getting everything into your inbox, scheduling and doing those things. But while you're doing that, you can also begin taking action on some of those either smaller tasks or the first tasks. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to be said for just get it out of your head, get it onto paper, into an app, whatever it is, and just start. Just quit overthinking it and just start.
That's great.
Yeah. It's a big one for us too.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. RJ, how can people see what you do? How can people follow you on social media if they're interested in keeping up with RJ? What's the best way for people to interact with you?
The best way is follow me on Twitter or Instagram. It's RJ McCollam. I imagine these will be in the show notes because McCollam's not always easy to spell, so you can check that out. And if you're interested in the furniture business, it's on Instagram, makers_work.
Makers
awesome.
work.
I got one more question for you. What are you most excited about in life next?
What am I most excited about in life? I'm in a current challenge of we have so much work in our business at the moment. We just hired on our first employee, which is exciting and scared, but I'm excited to get on top of it and then see what it looks like to, multiply our business and grow. I'm always excited to push forward and grow in an attempt to not stay complacent.
Yes.
Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope you learned something. Actually, we know for a fact that you had to have learned something from RJ. He's got a super awesome background. So thanks for listening. And we're super excited to share even more guests with you guys. And we would love a review if you've got a little bit of time on the podcasting platform of your choice.
You can also DM us on Instagram at jennieanddavis. Mm-hmm. And you can also send us an email at letsquizpodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely. So big thank you to you and a big thank you to RJ.
Yep. So we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.